Welcome, welcome to this 24-hour event of Global Dairy Farmers. As Global Dairy Farmers, we are very proud that we have realized this 24-hour event, with thanks to the support of many enthusiastic GDF farmers and our GDF business partners as well. It's great and it's very special. My name is Ad van Velde, dairy farmer in the Netherlands, and since 2017, president of this very special group of farmers and business partners. Besides me, the management team of GDF consists of Yvonne, our manager, Alphonse, our vice president, and Co is our treasurer. Alphonse and Co both work at Wageningen University, and they are both involved in many international dairy-related projects. First, something about Global Dairy Farmers. A unique network of practicing dairy farmers from all over the world. Visionary, progressive, looks across borders, and positive. We organize all kinds of activities. Recently, more online, but otherwise much physical events. There's happening a lot around the world in agriculture, as well in dairy farming and the dairy industry. Many challenges, many opportunities, but also threats. As GDF, we look at what is going on in the world. What are trends in certain regions? What does the future like in certain countries? We always try to make the connection with the farms. Why are certain dairy farmers successful and other ones less successful? We talk about this within GDF, but also together with our business partners. That's why this event is called 21 Good Farmers, 31 Great Farmers. Being a member of GDF also means sharing visions, gaining inspirations from other members or from the conferences and events we organize. GDF membership is also part of modern entrepreneurship. The international dairy industry is moving. The sector is in the spotlight. Many countries, the number of dairy farmers is rapidly decreasing. In my opinion, the time for cooperation now more important than ever. And GDF plays a role in this cooperation. Once again, welcome to Block 2 with the title Dairy Developments on So Many Levels. About the agenda, I will introduce Pallavi to you. Pallavi is our keynote speaker this morning. After my introduction of Pallavi, we get a dairy speed date. You come, all the members, all the delegates, you come automatically in a speed date, and it's important that you introduce yourself and speak a little about yourself, and that everybody can be part of the speed date. So first, I will introduce Pallavi to you. In 2019, I met Pallavi for the first time at the mini congress in Mumbai. The purpose of that conference was to brainstorm about opportunities for dairy farming in India. I think China, India, Southeast Asia, African countries with Nigeria at the forefront are countries where a lot is going to happen in the dairy sector in the years ahead. GDF is very pleased that Pallavi is going to give her opinion on India. Personally, India triggers me. Why? For example, the position of dairy in the human food chain. I've eaten dairy products in India that I didn't know they existed. Plus, there are many vegetarians in India with a lot of dairy products in their diet. What more could you want as a dairy farmer? Pallavi shows what's possible in India as a dairy farmer and as an entrepreneur. Back to the Congress in Mumbai. I spoke with several politicians there. Some mentioned that Pallavi might be the future agriculture minister of India. So we are very happy to have Pallavi here. Now we will start with the speed date, and that is all going on automatically. And if the speed date is finished, I will give the floor to Pallavi. Success with the speed date.
Okay, that was really great to meet on breakup rooms. Definitely. Start, yes. Yeah, so you can see my screen.
You still have to put it in presenter mode.
Yes, I think. Now it is okay?
For me, I still see the start screen.
Start screen? Just. Now it is visible?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So, namaskar everyone. I am Pallavi Vyas, a micro dairy farm entrepreneur, a founder and CEO of Shanta Farms, a unit of Shanta Farms Private Limited, which is situated at heart of India, Indore, Madhya Pradesh. As you can say, as this today's topic suggests, Indian dairy on a growth path. So I feel that India is the largest producer of milk, was been on its growth path over last 6 decades. And now we have organized and organized sector. So, and being a Shanta Farm owner, I am a part of this Indian dairy and its growth journey. Next. Here you can see the Indian dairy scenario, where dairy is one of the biggest agribusiness in India. As everyone knows, it is the largest single agriculture commodity with 4% share in economy. It makes India is a bigger country, and with its contribution of in Indian economy, it has 188 million ton production, which is record breaking in 2019 and 20. And COVID also shows that it is an essential commodity for Indian market also. And this all has been done by the rise of private dairy enterprises that are now accounts for more than 60% of dairy processing capacity in the country. All things happens when there was a white revolution, as white revolution was there in 1960 or in the end of 1960s or 70s. In this slide, as you can see, in 1950, the milk production of India was only 17 million tons. But when Operation Flood was launched by NDDB, then cooperative systems introduced in the state of Gujarat, and it has replicated by the other states. Then we have witnessed by the Operation Flood, and the White Revolution came into existence, and our milk production 100 times rises 100 times. So these all things happen with the introduction of cooperative societies, because we have the organized and unorganized sector at India. It has very populous country. Like we have millions of people, because as whenever I visit other countries, we can see the difference from Indian market and the UK and European market. While I am talking about the Indian dairy scenario, I am talking about the milk production. It's highest in the milk production. We have how we become a top producer by witnessing White Revolution. But all these things are happening despite the improvements in yields and predictions. We have lots of challenges suffering. India's dairy farms are facing numerous challenges, which some of them are like I share with you. The growth and achievement, the status of the largest milk producer of the world is laudable. However, there remain challenges on several fronts for Indian farmers. As a farmer's aspect, if I'll share with you some key points, like shortage of feed and fodder. As my farm is on Deccan Plateau, and here is the crop of main crops are cotton, soybean, and wheat crops. So there is always less availability of fodder crop. This is the example, but and these are because India has different geographical reason. So farmers are facing numerous challenges: breeding system, education and training, which is the greatest thing for Indian market, health, hygiene condition, marketing and pricing, and main thing which I would like to introduce, like excessive numbers of unproductive animals which compete with productive dairy animals for available feed and fodder. So this is the biggest issue. As a promoter of a small dairy farm, I had to work through innovative solutions to overcome all these challenges. However, from my personal experience, I feel the key in foreign investment in the sector and technology that uses solar and other innovative ways to store the milk and the other things. And definitely there is a massive shortage of organized dairy farms, improving productivity of farm, because when I talk about our farms or Indian farms, there is average of 987 kilogram per lactation of cows. But when we talk about US and UK or about from Netherlands, they have 2000 or 2500 kilogram per lactation of an average. So these are the things. Lack of access of market because of collection, transportation and processing. Farmers don't have access, don't have that much investment for handling the milk as a perishable item. So these are the things when we are talking about Indian scenario. So India has more production, many challenges, but despite that, Shanta Farm has come into these are the milk consumption patterns in India, where our 48% milk is consumed at the producer level in the rural, because India is the country where we live in, where mostly people live in villages. So 48% are the milk consumed at the producer level, which is in rural, and rest 52% sold out in urban level. Whereas 40% of the milk is sold by cooperative and private dairies, and 60% are still by unorganized sector. Shanta Farm came into existence for recovering this 60% unorganized sector. If you allow me, then I'll introduce my farm, because I live, Indore is tier 2 city. When Shanta Farm, when we launched Shanta Farm, there were only cooperative milk available for Indore city, and hawker milks. The rest 60% milk, which is from unorganized sector, was available for Indore city. So Shanta Farm, why Shanta Farm? Why I choose Shanta Farm? I am a first generation farmer. I did it with my passion, because there was a thought that we can. I have to put towards organic, because an incident came in our life. My mother-in-law, Shanta was my mother-in-law's name. She's no more, and she died with cancer. So this thought turns towards me that we should do something towards organic. And when we saw at our city, at our scenario, the milk, that time milk was the thing that we cannot, there was no traceability is there. We can think about adulteration, and there was no hygienic conditions there. So we thought about milk, and cow is the only thing from that we can get organic manure. That's why we choose to start a dairy farm. And I decided to choose, because my husband is an advocate, and I decided to choose beside the cabin practices and going by the farm. So I started an automated dairy farm, which was the Madhya Pradesh first glass bottle pasteurized milking project in Indore. When we think about Shanta Farm, we don't have any agricultural land or not having cows. So we had land nearby Indore city. It was we purchased a hill, because we wanted to do some organic work with the zeal of giving purity to the society, purity and nutrition rich products to the society. So we developed with pond soil, and then we grow fodder for our cows, for the farms, and then then we made including ready to drink farm fresh milk, ghee, paneer, and glass bottle. Now we are having 50-acre lush green fodder fields with 8 indigenous breeds cattle, and 5,000 of happy customers which are having milk of direct farm to fork model at Indore city. So that's how we are into organic milk and dairy products. But simultaneously, what we are doing, we are doing organic produces also. As I discussed with you, we bootstrapped with an initial investment of with the help with the family, friends, and bank. And now till now we generated a revenue of $1 million US. but how Shanta Farms becomes sustainable by doing end-to-end uses of farms. Because at India, when we are talking about Indian scenario, we have to use, because there is lots of challenges for dairy farming. We have Indian breeds that we have to work with end-to-end system. Like we are using cow dung and cow urine for growing organic grains and pulses. So that's how we made our model sustainable dairy farm. Our vision is to make organically produced dairy products and foods for more affordable for the common man. And we plans for expanding our brand on tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And how this comes, because when we are talking about Shanta Farms, while working on behalf of Shanta Farm, what we do, we organically produce or organically feed our cows, and the cow dung and cow urine used to grow fodder and the other crops. But when we did some research on cows nutrition and management, then we saw that as I said, that our farm is on Deccan Plateau, and where less availability of fodder crops. So we research on fodder crops. Then we did get very good result with moringa production, and we did make food with moringa, fodder crops with moringa. Then we as a Shanta Farm introduced moringa for nutrition of human health and for cow fodder also. That's how we made Shanta Farms a more socio-economic model. So Shanta Farm believes in social empowerment to achieve its mission. So how this will work? We whatever we did it, definitely did it with the women farmers, male farmers. We did some trainings with farming communities. So these all things are socially connected with us. And we as a woman, there are definitely very challenging industry for me, because cultural norms prevent a woman being primary owner of any livestock and farm, because India was not that type of country where women are working on farm field, but on she was not, she's not been able to primary owner, because I'm talking about a 6 years ago span. Now the things are changing. COVID has taught us many things. So these are the things. And lack of finance for both setting up and expansion is a significant challenge for being a woman. Yes, it is true. And I was lucky, but my father, family, my husband supports me, because India is that type of country where women in the farming field is not acceptable. So, but my husband rely on me, and I did prove it. And the fourth point is very basic: lack of technical skill and access to market. Because I was a first generation farmer, I'm learning a lot. And but being a woman of from village, so I know about soil and agriculture and farming pattern, so I did it.
Pallavi, sorry, your time is almost up. Can you try to finish your presentation, because we would also like to show the movie of your farm.
Definitely. These are the social empowerment skills. We are making women farmers cluster and organic value chain cluster. These are the how we can we are our organic vertical expansion. These films you can see in my video. These cattle and feeder facility at Shanta Farm. These are the some recognition and awards which I'll share with you. This is the very much because I was there some international exchange program, and I was a part of Indian delegation at Netherlands, US consulate trade delegation hosted by Shanta Farms Indore. So it was a very good opportunity. I would like to suggest you like India has a $33.5 billion opportunity. So you just come to India because government of India also supporting in many ways. If you can come with direct partnering from Indian venture, anything because India needs you. I would like to say we have active government supports and scheme. Our privatization of dairy is definitely is there. FSSAI guideline leading to expand market reach, evaluation of industrial packaged products and product variety. We need technological support and research and skill in every way. And Indian farmers are waiting for a good push.
Thank you very much, Pallavi. I suggest we go to the movie so that we also have an impression from your farm, and then we will, as soon as possible, go to the panel discussion.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Pallavi. Thank you.
गाय के दूध को दुनिया के सबसे पौष्टिक भोजन के स्रोत में से एक माना जाता है, पर भारत में दूध को पवित्रता से भी जोड़ा गया है, जहां गाय माता के समान होती है। इसलिए शांता फार्म्स ने गाय को सिर्फ दुधारू पशु न समझते हुए उसे पारिवारिक सदस्य के रूप में साथ जोड़ा है। यहां सिर्फ गायें पाली नहीं जाती, बल्कि उन्हें देवतुल्य समझकर देखभाल की जाती है। उन्हें साफ स्वच्छ वातावरण और आश्रय प्रश्रय दिया जाता है। गाय का लालन पालन करने से लेकर उन्हें दूहने और बॉटलिंग की संपूर्ण प्रक्रिया स्टेट ऑफ द आर्ट प्लांट में की जा रही है, जहां आरंभ से अंत तक बिना किसी ह्यूमन टच के रेडी टू ड्रिंक मिल्क को ग्राहकों तक पहुंचाया जा रहा है। इस बात का संपूर्ण ध्यान रखा जाता है कि दूध की प्रत्येक बोतल हाइजीनिक और रिच कंटेंट के साथ ग्राहकों तक पहुंचाई जाए। वहीं गायों को खुशनुमा और आरामपूर्ण माहौल में रखा जाए। दूध को पॉस्चराइज्ड मिल्क के रूप में कांच की बोतल में प्रस्तुत करने वाला शांता फार्म्स मध्य प्रदेश का पहला फार्म है, जहां दूध की उच्च क्वालिटी हेतु श्रेष्ठ एवं उच्च ब्रीड वाली गायों को स्टीम फ्लैग्ड कॉर्न, ग्रेन्स, साइट्रस पल्स, ग्रास, सिलेज, कॉर्न ग्लूटन, कॉटन सीड्स, आलमंड्स हल्स और शुगर बीट पल्स की प्लांट खुराक देकर पोषण दिया जाता है। इन गायों को दिया जाने वाला आहार भी इसी फार्म में उगाया जाता है, जो कि पेस्टिसाइड्स और बैक्टीरिया रहित होता है। गायों को पीने हेतु आरओ वाटर दिया जाता है। फार्म पर 24 घंटे डॉक्टर की सुविधा रहती है, जिनका रूटीन चेकअप किया जाता है। शांता फार्म्स में प्रत्येक गाय हेतु व्यवस्थित स्टॉल, दूहने की व्यवस्थित प्रक्रिया, मोटराइज्ड ब्रशिंग, शॉवर और रबर मेड फ्लोरिंग की व्यवस्था की गई है। ग्राहकों के हाथों में पहुंचने से पहले संपूर्ण प्रक्रिया को उच्च स्तरीय तकनीक और मल्टी लेवल प्रोसेसेस से पूर्ण किया जाता है। गाय को मशीन द्वारा ऑटोमेटेड मिल्किंग स्टेशन पर दूहने के बाद दूध को सीधे 80 सेंटीग्रेड पर उबाला जाता है, जहां से उसे तत्काल 4 सेंटीग्रेड पर चिलर में भेज दिया जाता है, ताकि दूध पूर्ण रूपेण पास्चराइज्ड होकर शुद्ध हो जाए। इसे चिलर के बाहर मानव रहित मशीन के माध्यम से कांच की बोतलों में पैक कर दिया जाता है। इस तापमान को बनाए रखते हुए वेन के माध्यम से शांता फार्म से लेकर डिलीवरी सेंटर भेजा जाता है। डिलीवरी सेंटर पर भी इसी तापमान को मेंटेन किया जाता है। डोर डिलीवरी वाहन के माध्यम से जब ये रेडी टू ड्रिंक बोतल ग्राहकों के हाथों तक पहुंचती है, तब भी बोतल का तापमान वही बना रहता है। डिलीवरी सिस्टम को कस्टमर फ्रेंडली बनाने के लिए एक ऐप बनाई गई है, जिसके जरिए ग्राहक आसानी से बुकिंग और ऑर्डर की क्वालिटी जरूरत के हिसाब से मैनेज कर सकते हैं। दूध की उच्च गुणवत्ता, हाइजीन और गायों की सेहत को समर्पित शांता फार्म से निकली दूध की एक एक बूंद 100% शुद्धता और स्वच्छता का प्रतिनिधित्व करती है। विंध्याचल की सुरम्य वादियों में पल रही विश्व की सर्वश्रेष्ठ ब्रीड की गायों का स्वादिष्ट शुद्ध दूध तैयार है। इंदौर, मध्य प्रदेश के लोगों को स्वास्थ्य लाभ देने के लिए शांता फार्म्स के साथ।
That was a fine movie, Pallavi, a great impression of your farm. And also, I want to thank you for your presentation. I think you gave a very good impression about your personal drive, what you want to achieve. And I think you already received quite a number of rewards, but I think you deserve them. I think you can be very proud of what you have achieved with your farm and with your business. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. I would like now to move to the panel discussion and invite our panelists. Actually, this panel really comes from all over the world. Pallavi, as we have heard, from India. Matt Reid will join us. He's from Australia. Sue Hagenson, born in New Zealand, has worked in China for a number of years, lives now in Canada, if I'm still right, because I think she's moving all the time. And from Kenya, we have Julius Kosgei, and hopefully he can also join us technically. And I will ask all panel members to shortly introduce himself. So tell a little bit about your background, what kind of business you're in. Don't make it too long because we don't have too much time. So don't start with your grandfather, so to speak. But please shortly introduce yourself. Matt, can I invite you to introduce yourself shortly?
Thank you. Yeah, with my wife, we run a family farm in southwest Victoria, which is about 2 hours west of Melbourne in Australia. We milk around 700 cows, calving 4 times a year and supplying the domestic milk market solely. We made a decision a short time ago, 3 or 4 years ago, to realign our business with the domestic market, and as such gave up on trying to be the lowest cost producer competing in a global market. And as a result, we've gained great stability to our business.
Thank you, Matt. Julius, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. My name is Julius Kosgei. I'm representing my director, and he could not join to this meeting. We have in this bundle, we are smallest dairy farm.
Julius,
yeah,
the connection is pretty bad. Maybe it's good that you turn off your camera and only use the sound. I hope that then the sound is a bit better.
I hope that's better. Alphonse, can you hear me?
Yeah, not too good. Let's give it a go, and otherwise we will move to Sue. Sorry for that.
It's Julius Kosgei. We run a dairy farm with Louis. And we have 31 milking cows.
I think the connection is pretty bad. As I understand, you have started a couple of years ago, 4 years ago, and are building up the farm and still learning a lot.
Yeah.
But I think the connection is actually too bad. Julius, it's very difficult to understand you. So I'm sorry, but we have to move to Sue.
Please do.
So Sue Hagenson, Senior Dairy Specialist for now VES-Artex. My role within the company is in the international arena, do a lot of troubleshooting, consultancy, working with customers, building new dairy farms, working through design and providing solutions for their facilities. As Alphonse mentioned previously, I was working for Fonterra in China, where I was managing a 3,000 cow dairy farm. Growing up in New Zealand, my background is pastoral dairy farming. So I jumped over to the dark side in 2011, I think it is.
Okay, thank you very much, Sue. First of all, I would like the panelists to kind of react or comment on the presentation that Pallavi did, and maybe a bit on the Indian dairy sector, how you look at that. I think she's given quite an interesting picture. We all know India. They're always on the #1 list of the biggest milk producing countries in the world. So Matt, maybe I can start with you. How do you look at what Pallavi has told us, and what do you take out of that?
I think it's quite amazing what Pallavi's done. It's quite a journey that that she's been on, and it looks like there's massive opportunities in India for similar models, and lots of investment, lots of upside, I guess you could say. A massive producer now, but could be a giant into the future.
Thank you. And Sue?
Yeah, just to kind of add on what Matt has said. I mean, right now, India is the sleeping giant because it's very fragmented, and you don't have a commonality as an industry. And like you said, you're picking up that free market. One of the challenges that I understand from India and in a lot of other developing regions is that it is that lack of information technology, learnings that creates the challenges for countries and dairy farmers like yourself. And it's going to take a little bit of time, I believe, to be able to realize and no longer be that sleeping giant. But one of the other aspects that needs to be considered is, you know, to establish a dairy farm is not a cheap activity, right? There's a lot of upfront capital cost that needs to be taken into consideration. And if there are shortcuts taken, then you're never going to realize that capital investment and maximize that business.
And Julius, I want to give it one more try. If the connection is, if it's a bit better now, I think maybe the what can be compatible with your farm, your business, that you're also pretty new in the sector, like Pallavi is, and you're building up. So what would be your takeaways from the presentation of Pallavi?
Yeah, I think I don't know if you can hear me better now.
Yes, better,
Alphonse.
much better. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, what I get from Pallavi is the new areas of making cheese, value adding. Because if you look at the prices of milk in Kenya, it's like everybody that buys milk buys at their own price. So there's no standard price. Of course, Kenya milk is a lot of politics. I know most of you know that big senior guys are running also the dairy activities, and they control the government and the private dairy business. So sometimes it gets difficult to do business. And when about partnership, if you want to import, for example, or work with a partner, there was a company that tried last time to bring in powder milk, but there are a lot of taxes that are involved in this. So they are making the business a bit difficult for investors coming from outside the country. And again, for farmers, they are the ones that determine the prices. So currently what we've experienced in the last 10 months or so this year, basically, is because most of our feed ingredients, we get them from Uganda and Tanzania. From during COVID, Then importing raw materials have been difficult, so the prices definitely have gone higher. But the milk price remains the same, or worst case scenario is that it goes lower. So that is what we are working on now.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think, Pallavi, coming back to what you said, you kind of invited, I think, almost the people who attend this Congress to support India and to support the farmers in developing knowledge and bringing in technology. But as I understand, but maybe you can tell more about it, it's not always that easy for companies from outside India to come into India and to do business there. Do you have some experience with that? What can be the difficulties for others if they want to support the Indian dairy sector?
Actually, may I?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, please.
Hello. Yeah. Actually, Indian government is now opening up for FDI, foreign direct investment. So I think it is easier for to help those kind of things. As if I talk about my farm, then I'm opening up or open for maybe joint venture or of support of any type of support. But as I know, cheese from Netherlands is very good quality, but we Indian does not have. We are having mostly like pure milk market here at India, but last 5 to 10 years have been witnessed a shift towards the value-added products markets at India. So there is always need of that type of changes, because Indian demands and that type of things now. Consumer awareness is very hiking, and the disposable income of the persons are paying more for good products. And this shift has been rises after COVID situation.
Do you think, you talk now more about on the processing side and product development, do you think that's where the most need is for the partners, but or also on the more on the farmer side, on barn equipment or feeding equipment or
Actually, what I like to suggest you people, actually, whomsoever wanted to invest in India, they have to enter into Indian way, because for Indian market, if any company wanted to introduce itself in India, they had to understand the Indian scenario, because there is, if we are talking about the indigenous breeds, we have low yield, 8 to 10 or maximum 12 liter per day. This is a very low with Indian breeds, but they have very good medicinal value, and the milk of their milk has high price in market, at Indian market also. And now it is getting expectation in US market and other market in A2 brand.
Yeah.
So yeah, there, if any company wanted to enter in Indian market, they have to understand the Indian scenario. Only making a sales team or making only selling the products is not sufficient for India, because I'll give example of my farm. I have all technological development. I have given sensor to every cows, but the person who is feeding the data, he has to be skilled enough.
Yeah.
So simultaneously, that type of thing should be there. That type, as I have seen there at Netherlands, there is research institute. I have been there at Aeres University. That there is lack of infrastructure here at India. So, many people can enter in these things.
Thank you. Sue, you've been working all over the world, and I guess if you want to work in India, then you have to do it in the Indian way, and I think that's the same all over the world. If you work in China, you have to do it a bit in the Chinese way. Yeah, what from your experience, what would you recommend to the Indian dairy farms, or to Pallavi, or even to businesses that would like to enter in the Indian dairy sector?
Well, I mean, that's quite an interesting question, because I'm kind of going through that process a little bit at the moment with somebody in India to see what opportunities are possible. And yeah, there's a lot of red tape, shall we say, and a lot of kind of gray areas that that requires a bit of dedication and time and patience to kind of go through. I mean, everybody is guilty of kind of trying to think that they can railroad in because, you know, we are the mighty dairy expert, or whatever the attitude is. And in fact, you end up, you know, either not making any progress whatsoever, or it takes you twice as long. So from my experience, it's finding the right connector within the country that can then guide you through that entire process so that you get the right outcome. Otherwise, you hit the brick wall and there's no way that you can get past bureaucracy. It's just impossible.
I think that's a very clear message. Coming back to you, Matt, if I'm right, and in the past you were very internationally orientated, and now you're focused on strongly on the domestic market. So you've kind of changed your focus, if I'm right. From your experience and also your broader look on the dairy sector in the world, yeah, what would be your message towards Pallavi? Can you give her? Would you, give her an advice, or say, well, focus on this, or?
I think from what Pallavi said, I think she knows. I think she's got most of the answers. She needs to upskill her teams. She needs to be able to disseminate that information. She needs to be able to get access to capital. I think she knows the answers. And then once you've got a handle on all those things, then you can manage your business profitably. The challenges that Pallavi faces, I think, are significant ones, but they're also achievable. It's just a lot of effort and a little or a lot of time.
Thank you. We have to wrap it up. So Julius, sorry, there's no more time for you to have a final comment. I would give the final word to Pallavi. Maybe some closing words for this session. What you take out of this yourself, if you have been able to process all the feedback you've got.
Yeah, for me?
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to suggest many things. You can open up, like embryo transfer technology is very much needed for Indian market. Sex sorted semen is very much needed because male calves are because for Indian sentiment, male calves are getting wasted here. And the third thing, which new AI technologies. If anyone wanted to this thing, new AI techniques with new vaccine development, because some diseases which are meant for India, like foot and mouth diseases, are here at India, but I have never seen in other countries. So if good quality vaccine and with reach of farmers, these types of medical facilities you can introduce at Indian market. Or with a skill and knowledge development centers. If anyone wanted to interested, we can do something, because you can do with your Indian partner.
Yeah.
Because government is very keen to build India in next 3 years. It's the 15 time milk production better.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pallavi. I think it's actually an invitation to all of us to cooperate with you in the Indian dairy sector. And I hope with GDF that we can have real physical meetings not too long from now. And it would be a great pleasure actually to visit India and your farm with this group. I would be really looking forward to that. So I would thank you, Pallavi, very much for your presentation. And I think, like Matt said, you can be very proud of what you've been achieved. There are a lot of challenges, but I think we're all confident that you will be able to manage those challenges. So thank you very much. And thank you, Matt, Julius, and Sue for participating in the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Sue. And thank you, Julius. Thank you, Alfon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Alphonse. And thank you, Pallavi and the panel members for this great discussion. Yeah, so we have a few minutes before the next part of Live Block 2 starts, the World Dairy Table discussions. Yeah, just stay online and hope to see you soon. Well, there we are again. For those who are still here, great you're here with us, with all of us, and welcome to all the new people joining today. Welcome to the GDF Online Summit, where we are busy right now with Live Block 2. And this part is called the World Dairy Table Discussions, where we asked our partners to think of a topic that's on their mind, which they would like to discuss, maybe have some feedback on, something which is relevant throughout the globe in the dairy sector. And I hope you can all see my screen. So the agenda of today, as I just said before, is the World Dairy Table Discussions. And afterwards, just please stick around for the Farmer Solution Center. And so the agenda of today, I'm giving you this welcome My name is Yvonne Osserforth, and I'm the operational manager of Global Dairy Farmers and your host for the next 45 minutes or so. So those who joined these World Dairy discussion tables yesterday, they know a little bit how it goes. So what is going to happen? There are several topics which the business partners thought of. And you can choose the topic of your choice. So you can join, give your opinion, share your experience. And we're going to do it a little bit differently than yesterday. So we have a first session of parallel discussions from the first 4 topics, and I will show you later which topics those are, followed by take-home messages by those partners. And then we continue with the parallel discussions of sessions 5 to 7, and also follow up with some take-home messages. So let me show you what these first couple of topics will be. So here you can see it. The 4 topics for the first sessions is number 1, Holm&Laue, talking about animal welfare trends in calf rearing. Number 2 sessions, MSD Animal Health, about monitoring technology to improve fertility in the dairy cattle. Number 3, Lely, about digital farming. And number 4, VES-Artex, rationalizing water at the back of the barn. And before we actually go here, before we open up these discussion tables, these breakout rooms, let me show you what that technically means and where you have to click. So you either have to choose your room directly. If you have, it depends on your Zoom update. So you can either choose your room directly, or you should put the number of your preferred option in front of your name. Let me show you how that looks like. But first, how it will look like if you can choose your room directly. So in a couple of moments, we will open up the breakout rooms. And as you can see, it's at the bottom of your screen. Maybe you have to click on more to see the actual 4 little squares. What you do, you click on it. You can choose whatever session. So this is these are all 7 sessions which will happen in this entire part. So you choose, in this case, one of the first 4 sessions and join it. For instance, you choose to join the Lely session. Make sure you click yes, and you will be automatically put in the breakout room. And in case this doesn't work, in case you don't see these 4 little squares, what I said before, you change your name. If you can find yourself easily within all the little videos, click the 3 dots and you see at the bottom the rename option. If you can't find yourself that quickly, click on participants, click on more, and there you can rename yourself as well. So let me just quickly get you the topics again that you can choose. So these sessions all last a little bit more than 15 minutes, and then you'll be automatically brought back to the main room again. And then we continue with the second part of the other topics. So the topics from Jaylor, Aeres University, and Denkavit. But for now, let's have a look at these first 4 topics and enjoy the discussion. Go ahead.
To record the meeting, so I'm doing that. Yeah, I would like to discuss about the topic of increasing animal welfare demands from the society. So we see this over here in Germany, we see this in Europe, and we also see this in the world. So I think it's quite good to discuss these topics. And of course, since we deal with calves, I want to focus this mainly on the calf side. So Before I start, I would like to ask you to participate a little bit. I have prepared a small survey, a small poll. Unfortunately, that doesn't work here in Zoom directly, so I have to move to a different website. And I would like to ask you to take your mobile phone, your computer, or whatever you have available, and go to the website menti.com. And on that website, you have the possibility to enter a code, which is 53747093. So if you enter that code, you are able to to give your evaluation of these questions here. So please go to the website menti.com and enter that code 53747093. And I would like to ask you to tell me how difficult would it be for you if you should meet these demands, these following demands from politicians or from consumers. You have the chance to tell, okay, that's very difficult or very easy for me. And the first question is, would it be difficult for you to rear your calves with their mothers or with nursing cows? Would it be difficult for you if individual housing would be banned, would be prohibited? Would it be difficult for you if you need to offer more space for your calves? How difficult would it be to feed your calves more like nature, meaning just whole milk, no milk replacer, and offer them more milk? So that means actually as much as they would like to feed. Another topic, which is a purely European thing, I will talk about that a little bit later. How difficult would it be if you are only allowed to move your calves away from your farms or to transport this to other farms to sell it only when they're 4 weeks and older? And last but not least, how difficult would it be if dehorning is not allowed anymore? So if all the calves, all your cows need to keep the horns. So please enter your suggestions here. I see that we have 3 votes already. How many do we have in the group here? Let me see. So I know it takes some time to do that. And while you're still voting, let me tell you a little bit what is happening in Germany and in Europe right now. So, for example, here in Germany, there will be a law starting end of next year that, all the calves need to remain on farm for at least 4 weeks. So we are not able to trade our calves, to sell bull calves, for example, when they are younger than 4 weeks. And we also have a discussion of the ban on cage housing. And cage housing is not really defined, but definitely it will be a problem that individual hutches will be forbidden. And another fact, in Austria, we have the first dairy factory which is not allowing their farmers, their suppliers, to feed milk replacer to the calves. So the only food they are able to feed their calves is whole milk. I think these are some trends which are quite interesting, and I would like to discuss these with you. And I've also asked one of our GDF partners. Just let me make it. Murray, maybe to comment on these. Murray, when you see these results here, how would you comment on that? You have a dairy farm in New Zealand and in Brazil, so maybe you introduce yourself quickly, and then yeah, tell me what you think.
Yes. So Murray Douglas, our family operates quite large dairy farms in Northland and New Zealand, and also in Brazil. So this spring on our farms in Northland, over a 8-week period, we've raised about 2,000 calves plus moved quite a few on to further sale. So when I look at these, and I look at this through a lens of focused block calving, the practicality of a bunch of these things. So rearing calves with mothers on nursing cows, we do that a little bit with a few beef calves, but it is actually quite time consuming and quite difficult. Not all mothers are born equal, with some of them missed out in the maternal instincts around feeding calves, and making sure young calves are well fed would still take quite a bit of time. And the cows all have way too much milk. So just managing that process is quite challenging. Prohibition of individual housing and hutches for calves, I mean, it's not what we do anyway. So for us, that would be no problem at all. All our calves start in groups of up to about 10, individually looked after. So that's not a problem. Offering more space per calf. When I look at these numbers, fundamentally, that's just a capital and an ongoing cost issue. So to be able to do that, and it just, yeah, it's possible, but you have to be convinced that it's actually doing some good. Whole milk and ad lib feeding, we do a range of options in our business, so that's possible, but we also feed quite a bit of our calf rearing's done on milk powder replacement. So I am somewhat trying to get rid of something out of the corner of my screen. Moving farms, not from a farm not before weeks of age, would be very challenging with the current model here in New Zealand. So the ones that we rear would be fine, but any that, like there's a lot of calves reared by calf rearing specialists, and if you couldn't move them, that would make, it would just turn everything on its head, I believe, and become quite challenging for a lot of businesses here. And as far as dehorning goes, the thought of doing that, in my mind, is pretty crazy. We've had the odd cow that gets through and hasn't been dehorned, and there's always plenty of space around her in the yard, and it just changes the social pecking order. And if that was forced upon us, we would have to go aggressively into bringing a pole gene into animals, just because of the management scenario. So hope that's of some help, Holger.
Yeah, Murray, thank you very much. Yeah, is there anybody else in the group who likes to comment on these? Maybe you see some challenges in demands of animal welfare in your area, on your farm, maybe different to what I've put here. Of course, I know these 6 points are just, randomly taken. Anybody else who like to comment on that? So, Murray, another question to you. I think the criticism which we receive from public, it has also to do with the fact that the people don't really know how we are producing milk anymore. What's the problem there? How can we change that?
So we've spent quite a lot of time and effort trying to marketing. Like if you go into the States, for example, and you see the milk that's often sold shows a nice red barn with cows outside, which is not the reality. So we've got, Holger, you're absolutely right, we've got this disconnect. And people just kind of at a high level look at these issues and don't understand the work and effort that people go to make sure, absolutely sure, that they follow process, that a calf gets colostrum, that it's fed and it gets the right amount of milk, and that energy and process that goes into rearing calves. I like some of the issues are just fundamental. People are just, there is a group in society that are just totally turned off to what they consider to be what we do. But it is trying to help people understand, and very difficult when people are very distanced from the operational part of farming.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, over here in Germany, statistically, for example, we have about less than 3% people who are real vegan. But the whole vegan discussion seems to overall everything else, and it seems to be the main nutrition trend in food consumption, which we have over here. So that is really dominating the whole discussion, and yeah, putting the traditional food consumption under pressure, I think. So people have to justify that they're eating meat or drinking dairy, drinking milk, and I think that's a big problem. Yeah. So what are we able to do? How are we able to react on that?
So, if someone else wants to have a go, please jump in.
Please.
But, you don't win these debates in the newspaper. So, and ultimately, there's a bunch of stuff that's done by regulation, and so it's imperative that the right people are having the discussions, and the rules are being set with the appropriate input, and that will include your vegans all the way through to farming people to try and find some balanced ground. But you know, when we look at the trends are only one way, and so as farming operators, we have to make sure that we're doing things well and meeting those needs on an ongoing basis. And that's, you know, it's challenging. You have to do that every day. You cannot have a day off of not doing that.
Yeah. And I think the biggest problem is also that the average dairy farmer doesn't really have the marketing knowledge and the marketing power in order to fight against that. So just an example, in our neighborhood here, there was a dairy farm. The woman was posting a picture of her kid drinking milk beside a calf in the calf hutch. It was a very romantic picture, nothing wrong with that. But she received a real shitstorm, so that she has to put down her whole Facebook account because hundreds of thousands of people were commenting on that. That was terrible. I mean, they luckily the family went through that quite well, and now she is training other farmers how to communicate with other farmers, with consumers. But it's a challenging time. I would just like to ask the group if there's anybody else who like to comment on that. What are your experiences with the discussion with consumers, with demands? We have like 50 seconds more. One final, Alphonse.
Yeah, maybe I recognize the difficulties in communication, and what I experienced from a lot from dairy farmers, that they think it's all about explaining, but I think it's more than explaining. It's about really communicating with the citizens and with the consumers. So that means that we also have to listen to what the consumers and the citizens have to say. And it's not just a one-way explaining what we're doing, because I think that's not good enough. But nutritional value is very high from milk, so that I think that's a good point. And we can turn grass into a high nutritional value product, so that's also a very strong point. So there are some messages, but I also agree with Murray. We must keep on improving and work on this.
Take them serious, but don't forget our statements as well, right?
Is everyone back? Yes, okay, perfect. Well, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the discussions we had so far. I just saw a question in the chat from someone if the sessions are recorded. Yes, but that depends if the host actually pushed record, and at a later stage in a couple of hours, you can watch the rerun as well on our website. Yeah, so let's see if the four presenters, the four hosts, have a take-home message, a short take-home message for the entire audience. So let's start with Holger from Holm&Laue.
Yes, Yvonne, thank you very much. Yeah, what's the take-home message? My topic was animal welfare discussion, and what is are we able to meet the demands of the consumers or not, and what is the outcome of that? Yeah, we have discussed these points. Some of these things or demands from consumers can be met. Yeah, if we are feeding the calves the amount of milk they're supposed to get, I mean, that's quite easy. If people ask us to stop dehorning calves, it's a security factor as well. No? So, and I think the take-home message was right at the end. Of course, we are not able to change the opinion of the real strong criticism, but we have to take it serious and we have to communicate better. So, and we have to improve all the time, so that communication with the consumer is getting better.
Thank you. That's some very good advice. Thank you, Holger. Let's see who's up next. It's MSD Animal Health. Jackie, do you have a take-home message for the audience?
Hi, Yvonne. Yeah, sure. So our topic for today was the impact of the disruptive monitoring technology on the fertility of the dairy farm. So we discussed actually the barriers that are actually the farmers are facing in order to use this kind of technology. We discussed that some of them are those barriers are might be economical, or that they get a little bit intimidated by the usage of new technology, because it actually changes the way that you work in the farm in a good way. Yeah, you are less dependent on skilled labor. So one of the farmers said that he has the technology and all the results improved, and the pressure on the employees during the mating season was substantially low, and the benefits, how the indicators improved. Yeah. Another topic that key takeaway that I got is that another farmer mentioned that farmers don't really know what they don't know, meaning that they think everything is right, yeah, and the way they do things will remain, and they're not open, to think and to see and to analyze different ways of doing things. So that's another key takeaway that we discussed.
Thank you, Jackie. Yeah, I guess being a little bit stubborn is part of being a great entrepreneur, a great dairy farmer. So thank you. Let me see who's up next. We have Arjen from Lely. Do you have a takeaway message for the audience?
Yeah, I can try to give some takeaways. During the session, I tried to take the participants along to my digital farm and show them how I try to make sense out of the data that comes out of it. And that ended up in quite some interesting questions and talks we had about that. What I would like to give as a takeaway is that in the coming years, the amount of data, the amount of sensors, and the amount of opportunities with the data will grow. So make sure that as a farmer, you try to make the good use of it. Don't be afraid of it, but try to find the best way to make it work for you. And then I guess it can be a success on every farm.
Thank you. Thank you, Arjen.
Come.
And last but not least, Sue from Artex. Do you have a take-home message for us?
I do. I mean, we kind of built on what my take-home message was in the last session, taking it just that little bit further around the fact that you know, on dairy farms, we have a lot of focus and emphasis on capturing a lot of information, or prioritizing on, you know, collecting and looking at data, milk production, what's going on in the parlor, feeding, etc. And for whatever the reason, particularly in, say, more temperate climates, heat stress is the poor cousin, because it's not a 365-day event. It's something that's short term, and based on where you are, it's either going to be a moderate summer, or you might have a hot summer, and pain has no memory. So on that, we kind of looked at, well, from a technology point of view, then what kind of predictive matrix can be developed to then go, right, all right, it's not a huge investment, but there are costs associated with running it. And so how can we add in parameters to help dairy farmers be a little bit more confident in the fact that if they're investing in something like this to better reduce heat stress in the herd, then what's going to be the predictability? Because at some point, you know, heat stress is going to be a welfare thing, and there are already a number of companies that are starting to now monitor through collars heat stress. So it's a matter of kind of grabbing all of that information collectively to then be able to provide better confidence on managing water to keep cows cool.
Thank you, Sue. That's I hope people maybe wrote down about your comments, and otherwise they can watch it back later after the block is finished. So thank you for your input. Let me guide you through to the next part. So the next couple of sessions. So we have 3 different breakout rooms. I'll share my screen so you see which ones those are. So it's Jaylor talking about TMR, it's right for everyone. Number 6, Aeres University about farm succession. And number 7, Denkavit about vegetable protein in calf milk replacers. Yes, let's open up the breakout rooms and enjoy the session and choose the topic of your choice.
Good evening, good afternoon, PANKAJ.
Hey, good evening. It's about going to be midnight here.
It's always guessing way. So you are
yeah.
obviously more to the east as compared to where Thomas and I are located in Europe.
Yes. Hello, Tom.
Hi, PANKAJ. How are you?
Good. Good coincidence. We get into same room again.
Yeah. Yes.
And yeah.
It's nice to see that people meet again.
Yeah.
One of those meetings.
Yes. By the way, we use Denkavit at our farm quite often, you know, at the calving season.
Yeah. So there's no convincing needed.
I just want to know about the plant, how you're using them, and is there any cost benefit that we see in future?
Perfect. Can you shortly explain to me what you are doing and how you are using it?
Yes. So we have a farm of about 400 cattle at this moment. We started with 50, but over 10 years, we grew it to 430 or so. So we started with 13 milking cows. Today, we have about 220 milking cows. But still a lot of followers. And our main focus is in building a new generation of cows. India, if you have ever come to India, then you will see that there is a lot of non-standard genetics here. A lot of crossbreeding happened between the indigenous and the exotic cow. And though the cow look like same,
Yes.
but they don't yield same all the time. So you have to raise them for 25 months to know what their yield is, yield potential is.
So the main breed is it a cross between the original Holstein and a Zebu cross?
In the indigenous cattle, so we have 16 indigenous cattle. Those are very low production, and that actually makes it very difficult. So every calf is important for us, and if we know that the mother was good and we have put a good bull on it, then we really want to see that calf performs. So yeah, it's a very, very crucial area for us.
Yeah.
Denkavit, I believe we started using in 2019. And it's going pretty well. We start using it on our cows 15 days onward. And so I am away from manage farm operation so, but we use it, and we keep using it for 3 months or so, until we have gained a calf weight of about 90 kg or so. So
Perfect.
that's how we introduce and replace.
Thanks for the introduction, and nice to meet you, PANKAJ. And Jörg, are you generally interested in CMR? Are you using a calf milk replacer at the moment?
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I'm actually not a farmer, but I'm working for Holm&Laue.
I can see the
I'm
igloos in the
area
back.
sales manager at Holm&Laue, and I'm my area is Middle and South Germany, Austria, and Switzerland.
So
I'm
you're
always
taking
interested in nutrition. So
turns with Gerrit Aanstoot,
yeah,
because he was
I know
previously
Gerrit,
in our breakout room. Okay, well,
the
nice.
guys from Holm&Laue.
Maybe half of the people are currently in the Holm&Laue session.
Yeah,
Are from Holm&Laue.
and I do speak Dutch as well, so.
well, then I think we are 50-50, so let's keep it in English. That's the general language. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to very much welcome you in our breakout session about vegetable protein in calf milk replacer. In the keynote presentation, it was shortly discussed about vegetable milk, and the first question may arise is, why would you even put vegetable protein in a calf milk replacer? Well, the main answer to that is that it makes the calf milk replacer composition more economically attractive without compromising safety, health, and growth. Looking at the dairy raw materials, the WPC 35 and the skim milk at this very moment are high priced. So compared to relatively per percentage of protein, wheat protein, soy protein concentrate, and pea protein are far, far less expensive as compared to skim and WPC 35. So it makes the composition economically beneficial, not only for the manufacturer, but also for the farmer itself. And like PANKAJ just mentioned, you're currently using a CMR. If you take the label, your best indicator is crude fiber. Crude fiber at 0.1 or higher, that's obviously there is vegetable protein inside. But even with a crude fiber of 0.0, that does not mean that the vegetable protein inside there is nothing, because of legislation, if you are below 0.5, on the label it will show up as 0.0. However, in the ingredient list, it will always show up. It's legally, you need to put in either wheat protein or wheat gluten, soya protein concentrate, and pea protein. So having said that, PANKAJ, do you happen to know what type of CMR that you are currently using?
No, at this moment, I'm really sorry. I do not know what CMR we are using. I can come back with the answer tomorrow, though. Okay.
But if you look at the statement at the very beginning, does it make sense to you to incorporate vegetable protein in a milk replacer for young-born calves?
Of course, I mean, all the time our impetus is to reduce cost, and if it helps in reducing cost, then I would go back and talk to my manager and see, you know, in few calves, and we always compare, always, you know, before shifting. So possibly we can allocate 10 calves or 5 calves in this season or next season and see how it is performing. If it remains as you're saying, then possibly we shift it to it.
But would you expect possible backfire, for example, from employees on the farm or even customers who are buying a calf milk replacer with vegetable protein, if they see it on the label? Would you expect a possible backfire that they would question why it is inside?
So let me tell you, in India, calf milk replacer was not available just 5 years back. So we are pretty young country in calf milk replacer perspective. There were not many buyer earlier, but farms like us are now coming. So we are not that much aware. You know, the first thing that we compare is the cost and whether it has the same benefit levels or not. Possibly label claims and all will come secondary.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
for us, yes.
And also, like you just mentioned, this would be a topic for Denkavit, for myself, that I can talk about for hours, but the last breakout session was cut very shortly, so I want to make sure that at least we have finished our discussion. But if you have any questions, and please let me know, because I'm very interested in the type of milk replacer that you are currently using. Perhaps we can even help with some tips or ideas after this session or tomorrow.
I would have one very quick question. A perception perhaps with customers in my area. Is there a perception that it would be lower quality product somehow?
I would definitely say so, that the perception is the first reaction of people if there is plant-based protein inside, because they say an all dairy product is always superior by definition. Well, to be honest, you can make an inferior all dairy product and a superior product which does include vegetable protein, and you will see the results in the calves within a few weeks. So yeah, you can make an all dairy product which is worse than a vegetable protein milk replacer. However, the unfortunate event is that it will show on the label that it is inside, and I would say that the perception of people is that the vegetable protein should not be in a calf milk replacer unless there is a clear explanation to why we use it. And one of the best ways to explain it, of course, is economics. If it saves without compromising, and that's a fair statement, without compromising the growth performance of an animal, then you would say it's a win-win. So going to that statement and answering it from our perspective, we would say yes, vegetable protein can be incorporated into a CMR without losing any performance. However, you need to adhere to a few, let's say, rule of thumb. First and foremost, untreated vegetable protein is not as digestible as dairy protein. So you have, for example, wheat protein, it needs to be hydrolyzed. So it needs to be pre-treated with enzymes. It will already be cut into pieces, and then you can incorporate it into a milk replacer. Same so with soybeans and pea protein. Secondly, the amino acid profile of wheat protein is far different as compared to dairy protein. So if you want to incorporate it into a calf milk replacer, you need to make sure that you supplement it with amino acids. And thirdly, there's a limit to it. The previous breakout room, we had a farmer, he said, would it completely swap the skim milk? No, for sure that won't, because it definitely has a limit. And the research that we have performed here in our own Denkavit research station, less than half a mile from here, shows that up to 9% of hydrolyzed wheat protein shows no deviation in growth. And that's for us our key indicator, that we can include 9%. We can give ourselves, but most definitely the farmer, the benefit of a more economically attractive calf milk replacer without losing performance. But unfortunately, in the past, without saying the names or names in general, but also non-treated or non-pre-digested wheat gluten and soy protein have been used, causing an allergic reaction because, for example, the anti-nutritional factors are still inside the soy. So the name of vegetable protein has been touched in a negative way. And it's our duty to show that it can be incorporated if you have a few quality points that are checked. But still, if you want to show it to a customer, you are 1-0 behind. You want to say something, Jörg?
1-0 behind, that's always what the Dutch say. Sorry.
No, but it's true. You need to prove, you need to show with data, with research, why it is worth it to consider a milk replacer first and foremost compared to whole milk. But if you want to make it a little bit more economically attractive, choose a milk replacer with vegetable protein, and the step is far less. Go ahead, Jörg. I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, you can use it like from the first day on or not?
You can use it from the first day onwards. Yeah, yes, very much. Yeah.
Okay. Because I always thought that vegetable protein is not very good in use for very young calves.
Yes, and that's very much correct. So for young calves, let's say the first 2 weeks, we would certainly incorporate vegetable protein in a milk replacer, and maybe lower inclusions. But as you can see also from the research done right at the start, so basically right at birth from the calf onwards, you see no deviations. But for example, soy protein concentrate at higher inclusions, yes, that would be the case that the first 2 weeks, like PANKAJ also mentioned, the first 15 days would be spent on whole milk or a little bit higher premium product. And then from the second or the third week onwards until the weaning process, you would choose for...
And Panji NAVANI from Binsar Farms in India. Alan has prepared a short presentation here just as a preamble, and what I'll do is I'll ask him to engage that and start the discussion with a little preamble.
There. Now you can. You have to unmute oneself. Welcome, everybody. For the sake of time, we'll jump right in. It's good to have you here. Just use a little terminology to help us along because of the various backgrounds we have. You know, we're talking about TMR, total mixed rations, where everything goes into the mix, forages, grains, supplements, etc. There's also another form of mixed feeding, of course, we call partial mixed rations, where the grain component might be fed separately. We have the benefit of mixing the forages and other ingredients. We also have cases where, on pasture situations where we are just making up for differences in forage availability at certain times of the year. This is versus component feeding and feeding forages and supplements separately, giving animals somewhat of a choice between the two. When we talk about TMR, we're really talking about the research standard, and really the standard has come for maximum production and capability. And I just wanted to share a relatively unique study where they took North American animals, split them into two groups, so same genetic background, and fed the one group on pasture, very lush vegetative pasture, versus a full TMR mix. And because of the nutritional value with the added grains, byproducts, et cetera, that was balanced in the TMR, the key is we have improvement of about 50% in milk production with the same genetic base. Now, the reason, of course, interesting thing is these are the same energy value of these two diets. The biggest difference is the fiber content that is in the pasture. Limiting intake was the biggest thing that was determined that limits productivity on high forage-based systems versus ones where we bring in more digestible sources of grains and fibers. As pasture quality goes down or forage quality goes down, this difference gets even larger. And there are countries, as we've talked about in India, Southeast Asia, et cetera, where there's limited forage. Pallavi mentioned that herself, so that we have poor quality forages, but also limited forage. So the opportunity gets even greater in terms of potential improvements in production. And just to put into perspective what we can do, there's limited research on actual benefits to TMR feeding. Under research environments, just taking exact same feeds and separating them, component versus TMR, we get about a 5 to 6% improvement in both milk production and feed efficiency. But this doesn't include the whole lactation, and especially adaptation and achievement of peak milk production. In commercial environments, we're looking at 10 to 15% improvement in lactation across the whole lactation of the animals. And in poor quality diets, especially in smallholder type farms, we see this up to 30% improvements in performance. Also get higher milk components, less health problems, less feed wastage, improvements there, and the ability to use all sorts of other byproducts in different markets. And an emerging area, especially in smallholder emerging markets, is the decreased labor input. Pallavi mentioned, of course, training and ability of knowledge of feeding is also a limited characteristic. So going to TMR allows those parameters to be set and then a greater application regardless of background. But the main goal, of course, is for more profit. It doesn't make sense going to TMR unless it is a more profitable situation. So with that, just brief introduction of the potential that's there. What are your thoughts about the value, limits, challenges of TMR, PMR feeding and its applicability in the market? And Marty?
In our first block session, we asked our panel guests here to just chime in here and make some comments. And Martin, if you wouldn't mind if I could call upon you to do that once again.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Hi, I'm Martijn. We have a dairy farm in Denmark. We practice TMR feeding. We have a dairy farm with 1,000 cows, and all the cows get the same feed plan. We're using TMR that the cows get every day the same, but that the cows cannot select the feed. We practice also compact feeding. It means the dry matter in the feed lay about 39%. And that way the cows cannot select the feed. And on that way, the first bite is the same as the last bite. So we feed one time a day. And on that way, after 24 hours, must be the feed the same as that we just feeding out. We have a production of 12,000 kilo milk per cow. So we are a user of TMR. Yes.
Okay. I wonder, in our first session, we had PANKAJ join us and reserved his comments for this session. I wonder if you could comment.
I think he's not enjoying us.
Oh, okay. I thought he was in the room. All right. Is anyone else interested in sharing their thoughts about the values and challenges?
Marty, I noticed that John Moran is with us, and I was interested in asked him if he would like to give a perspective of emerging markets and areas he's worked in.
Yes, okay. There's a lot of interest in large-scale dairy feedlotting right throughout Southeast Asia. And unfortunately, you've got the real problem, which Sue mentioned previously, of heat stress. And cow comfort is probably, it's difficult to have cow comfort with grazing cows. So as long as you're prepared to invest, which is what Sue said, you've got to spend money to make money with cow comfort, because unless the cows are comfortable, then their intake doesn't reach optimum levels and the cow crashes. And that's a major problem that we find everywhere, is that people don't monitor the heat stress. I mean, heat stress is temperature, humidity, and consequently, in different times of the day. But it's the cow comfort. With TMRs, I've been on far too many smallholder farms where the animals are tied up on concrete. And cow comfort means they've got to have something soft to lie on. So you've got many, many aspects of this, but intake is the only way to get the benefits out of a TMR. Because as you said, high fiber content of forages increases the rumen retention time, which reduces the intake. So it all comes back to cow comfort, and nutrition's important, particularly in countries that don't have a good range of quality forages. I mean, farmers put in rice straw in a TMR purely to increase the dry matter content of the TMR, but the TMR drops off in nutritive value because of the high fiber content and the virtual uselessness of the nutrition arising from the rice straw. So it requires a lot more skill, and well, of course, this all goes back to looking at the cow and put yourself in the cow's skin. In other words, does that cow look comfortable? If not, why not? Because unless she's comfortable, she'll only be eating 10 or 12 kilos of dry matter instead of sort of 18, 20 kilos of dry matter, which is what you'd expect with Friesian, with high-grade Friesian dairy cows.
I like to say something as a dairy farmer. I agree what you say, but it is when you have a good cow comfort, but you make not a good feed plan, then you have no milk. There are more things. It is together. It is feeding, it is cow comfort, climate. You cannot only say it is just TMR that the cows give milk. It is just only cow comfort that the cows give milk. But when you have all these parts complete, then I believe you can produce milk. Yeah, and then also when we talk about feed efficiency, when you have a good cow comfort, but also a good TMR ration and a high energy level, then you get then you increase your feed efficiency, and then you can make money. When this number is too low, yeah, then nobody can make more money. Yeah.
It's like farmers should have a concept of rumen retention time, because that's basically what it is, isn't it? Intake is so dependent on rumen retention time and also cow comfort, but it's really the farmer's got to put themselves inside the cow. They've got to look at the cow, and I mean the biggest problem is this enormous gap in the rumen wall, sorry, in the skin on the left-hand side. If there's a big depression in there, that cow's hungry. Now, why is she hungry? Is it she's not eating enough because the feed's spending too much time in the rumen, or is she not eating enough because she's under environmental stress? And so again, it comes back to observation. And observation, the big problem with a lot of developing countries is that the farmers haven't been born on a dairy farm, and consequently they don't have the innate ability to look at a cow and see how that cow thinks. Whereas in many Western countries, the farmer generally comes from a cow, from a dairy farm, and so he's been looking at cows and calves all his life.
These are really interesting comments in that. I was just, switching perspectives. I don't know, Murray, if you'd like to comment, from your New Zealand perspective and application of PMRs, and I know you do feeding yourself, is how things might be changing or the value in mixed feeds in New Zealand.
So I'd actually, given the thread of the conversation, I'd actually like to refer more to Brazil, where we are farming in the tropics. We are doing pastoral farming, and we will never get the levels of productivity that you get inside confinement. But our productivity off our farm, our best producing farm there, we've got collars on cows now, and it's been really interesting, the whole cow comfort thing. We bring the cows in at 11 o'clock in the morning. We have a big covered feed area, and the heat issue, you can just basically see cows stopping ruminating if they get too hot, and if you cool them, they just keep going. And we're getting some pretty good levels of productivity from a pastoral-based system in Brazil that I'm pretty stoked about when we put some of those other things in place as well. And we're still pasture focused, but we mix all other feed that's put in front of cows. So yeah, in New Zealand, I mean, pasture is still the main focus, but there are a group of people who are using TMR or mixer wagons to some degree or not. So there's a raft of ways that people are doing it in New Zealand now. That'll do for me.
I hope you had some very good discussions, and sorry if your discussion was interrupted. But as I said earlier as well, it's a good way to kickstart maybe a future discussion, and we can follow up. You can follow up with the people you were in the room. Welcome back. Like we did before, let's hear about the take-home messages from the different hosts, from the different partners. And let us start with Jaylor, Marty, and Alan.
It was again, interesting discussion from various parts of the world. And really, I think the takeaway is that there are many factors that impact milk production, including the TMR, but also cow comfort. And we just, I think, need to identify the limiting factors that is the next problem to solve in order to achieve the best value from your TMR. Alan, if you got...
I An observation for me, I guess, again, I'd like to thank Martin and Murray and John Moran for their comments and that sort of as panelists. But what stands out to me is some of the discussions, we center around appropriate technology and feeding, but our discussion ended up being more, as Marty said, cow comfort and its relationship to intake, and there was some discussion about balanced rations and limited forage and forage quality, and how it impacts the need for supplements and how it affects production potential. What's interesting is we have not had discussions about the economic limitations of bringing in, equipment and how we pay that off. I find that interesting.
Yeah, that's it's good to basically see that pops up or actually doesn't pop up in your discussion. Yeah. It's also something to keep in mind. Yeah, thank you, Alan and Marty. Let's go to Jan from Aeres University. Do you have a take-home message for the audience?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we had some nice discussions. But what happens in our session this time is, succession is a long period, but at the end of this day, you want to have a good Christmas meal with your whole family, and not fighting it over and over again. So that is very important. And in order to get there, you have to discuss as a successor things with your parents. But as a parent, you have to discuss things with your children, which you are from natural way you're not used to. So what might help is a coach to guide you through this process. That also has been mentioned in the session. And at the end of the day, there's always the big question as a farmer. Yeah, when do you step back? And as a successor, when do you step forward? And in order to step forward, someone else must give you some space. But also, in order to step back, you must have confidence to let someone else step forward.
Thank you, Jan. Quite interesting also to hear about the tip of a coach. Interesting. Thank you, Jan. Let's go to the final host of the World Dairy Table Sessions. And where are you from? Denkavit. Mariska, yes, hi.
Hi. We had an interesting discussion on the use of vegetable protein sources in milk replacer, and if they can be used without losing on performance, but also not losing on health and safety of the product. So we concluded that the use of vegetable protein sources is mainly because of economical reasons. Per percent of protein, they are much cheaper to use. And if you take into account the quality of the raw materials, so the right production steps, the right quality assurance, and also the correction of the amino acid profile, it can be very successful in a calf milk replacer. And as they are also part of buy streams from, for instance, starch production, they are also here to stay together with the dairy materials. But in the end, it's maybe more important to make sure that you use the product correctly. So use the right temperature to mix it at, use the right concentration, but also your other management factors in covering that determine in the end the success for your young calves.
Yeah, thank you, Mariska. I've heard this comment quite a lot, that a lot of things stand with good management. So thank you again for this, Mariska. So we're at the end of the second part of Live Block 2. Stay online because we have PANKAJ NAVANI and Murray Douglas giving some very interesting presentations in the coming hour. So hope to see you soon. 5 minutes and then we start the next session. See you in a bit. So we just had a short break. Welcome back, everyone. And for those who are new, welcome to the third and final part of Live Block 2. Live Block 2 titled Dairy Developments on So Many Levels. For those who are new, my name is Yvonne Osserforth and I'm the Operational Manager of Global Dairy Farmers, and I'm your host for the next 50 minutes or so. Together with Alphonse Beltman. So yeah, what can we expect today? We have the Farmer Solution Center. Yesterday we had two very interesting presentations from farmers from Germany and from Ireland. And I must say what's up next is going to be impressive again, because these two farmers are great entrepreneurs. So the agenda for the Farmer Solution Center is me welcoming you and also telling you that the Farmer Solution Center, it's all about sharing your experience or yeah, discussing what's on your mind. Maybe you have some doubts about things you want to share. Talk about strategies at different parts of the world, see how you can implement them at your own farm. That's what it's all about. So we look forward to this part as well, the online summit. But before we actually go to these presentations, we have another dairy speed date again. And then we continue by watching a good video made by Murray, followed up by elaboration on his specific topic. And the same thing will happen, but then with PANKAJ and NAVANI, a good video and followed up by a good Q&A session and elaboration. And well, let me be very short about introducing these two farmers, because I think they're doing a way better job themselves. So it's going to be Murray Douglas. He's a dairy farmer in New Zealand, and he's going to talk about farming in a changing environment, the effects of climate change policies. And I believe that's a topic that's very present everywhere in the world right now. In some places more than other, but things are yeah, getting more about this more and more important. And then PANKAJ NAVANI, he's the CEO of Binsar Farms in India, a great entrepreneur as well, has set up this great dairy farm. And he's going to talk about farming possibilities with informatics. So just wait a little bit before we start the presentations and listen to them. Meanwhile, in the chat, you can ask them any questions you like regarding the topic, of course. And also note that these sessions are recorded. But first, let us go to the dairy speed date. For those of you who joined the entire session already, you know what's coming up. For the others, it's a 4-minute speed date, and everything will happen automatically. You will be put randomly in a group where you shortly introduce yourself and maybe yeah, share what you've learned already during these sessions or what you hope to learn during this session. But up to you what you would like to discuss. So yeah, let's go and do some speed dating. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the dairy speed date. And hopefully we did not cut off too many conversations. And then it's time now for the most important part of this Farmer Solution Center. Let's go to the presentations. What will happen is that we first will show a video, in this case a video made by Murray, and then afterwards Murray will give a presentation. And again, please put any question you have in the chat. And yeah, let's show the video of Murray.
Hi everyone from Northland in New Zealand, where I farm in partnership with my family. We've built a family business up over a significant number of years, and with the energy of the next generation have made some real strides in the last 10 years. to grow the business here in Northland so that we are running multiple farms, some of which we own and others that we lease, as well as building and developing and running 2 dairy farms in Brazil. All our farms are pasture-focused dairies. Our aim is to harvest and to have our cows at grazing 365 days of the year. Harvesting quality feed with the cows to get the best possible production from that. To do that, we also enhance their feed at different times strategically by using maize silage that we grow on farm, by recirculating our nutrients from effluent, and also by bought-in feed at varying different times. We have developed and worked strongly around getting the best possible genetics to run our farms and from our cows, and looking to be able to work our way forward with an eye on the future. Long had an interest with the family in environmental management of properties. And as this has morphed into climate change and stronger government and consumer regulations and consumer push, we need to start thinking as dairy farmers in a global situation about how we can manage our operations to do that. As a family, we've made some steps which I'd like to explore as part of the discussion, and then think about how we as global dairy farmers, what are the likely events that will happen as we proceed with these pressures coming upon us. While it's turning up, I'll just make a few comments. I don't profess to be a climate change expert or scientist. Okay, so I put this together with my son, Tim, who has spent quite a lot of time in, he lives in Sweden quite a bit, and he is probably our environmental, of the family, our environmental support, our environmental conscience. And so when we look at the opening page here, you'll see that those photos are all taken on our farm. Some mature native bush, and on a lake in our farm, the water on the right. So let's move to the next slide, please. Now I put this slide in place because to me this tells a story. Now, this could be anywhere in the world. Was this Europe 200 years ago? Was it Europe 100 years ago? Was it Australia recently? Is it currently in Brazil? Was it after the US wildfires? It's actually in Northland here about 100 years ago. And I guess the message from me here is that over time, with different places around the world, we have all been through this kind of phase of chopping down, getting rid of native forest to create farms, to create the ability to feed people. And this has been part of that process. And the Western world has been through that significantly over a period of time. And some of the developing world is doing that now. And so it's very easy to sit and point fingers, but we've all been through this at varying different stages. Thanks, Yvonne. So we move to the next slide. And so what I thought I'd move to now was talking about here in New Zealand, how our livestock numbers. So if we look at these graphs, starting in the left, 1990 to 2018. And so this is total number of animals and livestock equivalents in New Zealand. And these are ruminant animals. So we've got dairy on the bottom, beef, sheep, and at the very top, the small line is deer. These are the farmed animals. And you'll see over this period, we peaked with animal numbers about 1990. So, and we've been steadily dropping in numbers. But the big change has been that dairy has increased significantly, beef has dropped, and sheep has dropped significantly. So hence, the spotlight in New Zealand has come onto the dairy industry as we have intensified and more dairy cows in New Zealand. Next slide, please. So if we look at this slide, so this kind of matches what is happening, and it matches one of the messages that Mary gave in her opening session. So if we look at the number of cows on the left side in New Zealand, you'll see that we peaked in cow numbers about 3 to 4 years ago. And because of land use changes and a bunch of rules and regulations starting to come into place, cow numbers have started to drop. Our milk production in New Zealand has plateaued, and we are steadily just, at best, we will be level over time, but more than likely, and as Mary said yesterday, your time, our production is likely to drop in New Zealand. So that's the background of where dairying is sitting in New Zealand at the moment. Next slide, please. So moving on, so what's happening regulation-wise in New Zealand? It's no different to pretty much every other place in the world. I had an Nuffield scholarship late 90s and spent environmental issues were the things that I studied as I traveled around the world. And these challenges are just ratcheting up. And so where did we start with? We started with water quality. And so the first big push in New Zealand was fencing of waterways. We've moved to a much stronger focus around reduction of nitrogen use. And then we've moved we have a government policy and emissions trading scheme with carbon credits. And all of those things are affecting and are very much tied into the graphs that I showed you on the last page. Next one, please. So this is a little bit about what we're doing on our farm here in New Zealand. So we've made a choice as a family to do some reforestation and creating a more balanced farming system. So we happen to farm, our main farm is a property that has some steeper country, steeper land that could never be cultivated. I helped my father clear that land of trees and scrub 50 odd years ago. And it's been quite an emotional journey for me as we've gone with the next generation to actually replant the same sort of things that as I helped my father cut down. So we have planted over 15,000 trees in the last 2 years. We've fenced off and retiring another 17 hectares on the top of 15 hectares that 20 odd years ago we put into an environmental conservation program. And so we now have over 50 hectares that we are retiring. Now, the interesting thing for me is that's less than 10% of this particular land holding. And when I compare that with our farms in Brazil, over there, we have to have, by legislation, at least 20% tied up in a reserve. So just different perspective and different rules. Next slide, please. So I guess the message here around the planting process is that it takes time. These trees were planted a year ago, and so there's a whole lot of process and work and effort to get them in place. They don't actually start to sequester a lot of carbon till about year 20 with our native forest. So if you look at the background of the top right photo, you'll see some trees. My father and I happened to leave those ones there when we were clearing this area 50 odd years ago. And they are maturing and they are doing a good job, but it takes quite a lot of time. They were very small trees when we left them there. Next slide, please. So what are we doing today? So we're trying to drive efficiency, per cow production on our grass. we're trying to best feed usage that we can. We're using best possible genetics. We've been using sex semen. We're trying to feed and have the best cows available. So we are not carrying animals that are not productive. We've fenced off a lot of area and a lot of waterways. We've done a lot of planting, a lot more than what I've just discussed here. And we are trying to use our nitrogen carefully and strategically. Next slide, please. So this is a quote from a Swedish guy who, an optimist is someone in his view that believes in something blindly. A possibilitist is a person who does it on the background of some information. So what are the options that we've got in front of us? There are a bunch of things, right? And it's going to be really important that we work through these things and we have time. I'm quite concerned that the world will move faster around methane in particular than we were able to do with research. So are we able to manage breed to manage methane? Are we going to be able to have feed additives that will manage that? Can we change cows' diet when the big chunk of what we do is pasture? And then just the expectations and genetic expectations. So that I think that's my last slide. And so I think the key thing is, as we look forward, what's going to happen across the world? This is a global group of dairy farmers. New Zealand will be restricted around milk and is being restricted around milk and our ability to produce milk. Does that mean that because there is a demand for milk, does that mean that it's going to shift elsewhere in the world and we won't actually make a difference? Does it mean that we'll have some step changes across the world that will make the production of milk more or less challenging from a greenhouse gas perspective? So I guess those are kind of questions that are very much in my mind, particularly with operating in Brazil and New Zealand. Quite different rules, but we kind of run our businesses with the same kind of philosophy. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Murray, for an interesting presentation. I liked also that you gave us a bit of an overview and go back a little bit into history, because sometimes it's good. Sometimes we can learn from history. And the comment you made on the development that has taken place in the Western world a bit earlier, and it's now more happening in more developing countries. I think it's very good to be aware of that and to be careful if you actually point your finger to certain countries and things they do, what we have done in the past ourselves as well. So I thank you for that. And I like the quote you had. I'm not an optimist, and I'm a very serious possibilist. I didn't know the word yet, so I will keep that in mind, because I think we can use that more often. I think you've raised quite a number of questions, actually, quite maybe even dilemmas. So what to do? What would you think if you look at the New Zealand situation? I think there's quite a lot of pressure also on greenhouse gas emission from the dairy sector, since New Zealand is mostly agricultural and the dairy sector is the biggest emitter of greenhouse gas emission. What do you see coming in policies, and what do you see coming in practices that farmers can actually implement, maybe on relatively short notice?
So at the moment in New Zealand, a lot of us are doing the type of thing that I've talked about around capturing carbon during varying different things. A lot of people, there's big pressure around reduction of nitrogen across with new nitrogen caps in New Zealand. So there's a whole lot of stuff that the dairy industry is doing. the big risk for us at the moment is it's more of a political risk, and it's how our governments respond to demands as part of managing climate change globally. And so, and I'll come back to the comment I made earlier on about our ability to do stuff. We can, we're a pretty much closed system around carbon, other than that methane has a warming a period that is a bit of a challenge for us. So we don't have a silver bullet in this space, and the worry is that we will be forced to reduce a bunch of cows, and that politicians make that choice for us, and then and I could be an absolute classic person that could do this. I then shut down one farm in New Zealand and set up another farm in Brazil, but we haven't actually changed anything from a world perspective. So that I see that as a real risk for us.
Yeah, I recognize your point, and I think it's a point that's been discussed in many countries around the world. At least in Western Europe, it is. So one of the tasks might actually be to help to explain to politicians. So do you think it's possible to explain this to politicians?
Well, if people far more skilled in this field than I am, and are working in that space, we have to keep hammering home the messages around what we are physically doing. What we've done on our farm is quite significant as far as retiring land, but as I say, it takes time. There will be a combination of things that will happen in New Zealand. There is land use changes going on right now. The value of carbon credits is such that beef farmers or hill country beef farm is struggling to compete with carbon farming. So that will probably have an effect for a period of time. But yes, I don't have the answer, but I wanted to raise this as part of the conference, really.
Yep.
Proud of what we're doing and the difference that we're making with what we're doing. But not everybody has the same amount of land or whatever to retire that we have chosen to do on our main farm. So.
And maybe it's a bit more technical question, but also methane inhibitors are being developed, or you could say almost rapidly.
Yep.
And I think that's something you always see. If there's a lot of pressure on a certain topic, then that really helps innovation.
Yep.
And I think in New Zealand, trials have already been done by using methane inhibitors. Can you share a little bit more about that? Because a lot of dairy farmers actually see the solution in that kind of technology.
Yes, so absolutely. As I understand it, there have been some trials underway. We don't have a product yet that is available for us to use in any shape or form. But if we keep collectively internationally putting energy into the space, then the chances of getting a breakthrough become very high. If we select for one trait in cow breeding, we can make big progress. There's probably a gene that we can modify to actually do something, but currently under our current rules in New Zealand, we would not be allowed to do that.
Yeah.
So it's a challenging time, but focusing on what we can. You always got to bring stuff back to what you can actually achieve yourself or your family or your own business, because you can't necessarily, we're part of a little corner of a jigsaw, of a really big jigsaw puzzle. And so if we can collectively as farmers, all do our own little bit to make a difference, to turn the dial, we do make a difference. And that's probably the key, while the scientists try to find the breakthrough that gives us that next step.
Yeah, I think actually for if I'm right, for Brazil, a feed additive has been allowed to be used as a methane reducer. So the first countries will be implementing technology like that. I have a question: how do your colleagues look at this issue? Because I think you had a very open presentation, said this is something we have to deal with, and we have to work on this. How does the average New Zealand dairy farmer or other dairy farmers look at this?
So right now, the majority people are saying, yes, we have to do something, but are pushing back quite hard about being, for a number of the reasons that I've talked about, being restricted, that we shift the problem to somewhere else in the world takes the opportunity that we have. And yeah, I'm probably, because of my relationship within my family, are a little further down the track of being more accepting around doing some stuff. We're making some steps.
Yep. Then there was a question in the chat from Ad. Do you actually actively communicate about the transition of a part of your land into the forest, and how do people react to that? And that's, yeah, maybe colleague farmers, how do they look at that, but also the society. Yeah.
So in recent times, we have had some press around this, but I haven't actively gone out to make be on the front page on a regular basis or whatever. That's not something that we've chosen to do as a family. We've just kind of got on and are doing it.
Yeah. Did you get any feedback even from the local community, or any comments? Yep. Or
so some very positive comments about what we're doing, because we've actually invested quite a lot of our own capital in this process of fencing. We have Tim has managed to source some trees from a group in New Zealand based on what we've done to date. So through society, we have got some extra trees to plant. So by recording what we're doing and demonstrating what we're doing. So yeah, we've had positive feedback from what we've done to date.
And another question from the chat is about the carbon farming scheme, how it works in New Zealand. How can you sell carbon credits as a dairy farmer? How are they measured, and how are they valued?
So you have to register for the scheme. There's administration cost. It can only be post 1989 trees or growth, and only in 5-year blocks. So currently we're 4-year blocks. We're 2018 to 2022, and there is a process that basically allows X number of carbon credits for a given area of land that is accepted into the scheme. Those credits are sold via auction system should you choose to do so, and the price of that has gone from $3.50 maybe 6 years ago to about, I think it hit $70 odd the other day. Okay. For a carbon credit.
That's a big difference.
It's huge.
Yeah. And is it just about tree planting, or are there also other possibilities? I know there's in some countries some debate of if you would keep less cows, that you also could get carbon credits.
Not in New Zealand.
Not in New Zealand, and also not for carbon sequestration in grassland.
In pasture? No, nothing.
No. And not in development either, as far as you know.
No, not that I'm aware of, but I don't necessarily know.
Yeah, well, if you're not aware of, I think it's not in development, to be honest. Thank you very much, Murray. I think we have to wrap this part up. Thank you very much for a challenging, but also still a quite positive presentation on the relation between dairy and greenhouse gas emission. Thank you.
No worries.
So now we'll go back to India again, to PANKAJ. PANKAJ NAVANI, and he's been involved with GDF already for a number of years. So PANKAJ, welcome, and very happy that you are prepared to present. And I think we will first start with a video of your farm, and then we will go to your presentation.
Sure.
Hello, my name is PANKAJ NAVANI, and I am a dairy farmer from India. We have a mid-sized dairy farm north of Delhi in northern India. Today, the farm is supported by 6 families, 4 from India and 2 from New Zealand. So, a journey that was started with 50 heifers. Today, almost after a decade, we have 450 crossbred animal on our farm. 220 of them are milking, and we are heavily investing on future generation, follower calves and heifers. We are also helping other farmers to attain commercial scale with the competencies that we have generated over this farm and tools that we have adopted. So today we have about 10,000 liter a day that comes from these 5 farmers plus our own farm. In last 3 years, we have also developed our own testing facility and processing capability. Well, all through Binsar journey, we have collected data and processed information, and we feel that it has been a very, very critical part of our success so far. We have segregated critical control point for herd performances, and we analyze these, and we have millions of data points that we analyze to see, analyze and see a past event or its possibility of reoccurrence in future. We see data and information, especially for next generation farmers, to drive performance out of the herd. And we are talking about some of these points in our upcoming GDF workshop. So please join us and look forward to seeing you there. Thank you, Alphonse, for giving me this opportunity. And GDF, of course, Yvonne was very particular that I should come and present. So thank you very much. Can you all hear me properly?
Very good.
Very good. Great. So, I know Ed for about more than 10 years now. Even before we started this farm, we started talking about it. And, he has been very supported in validating the models that we have created earlier. And that way I am, so much grateful. Binsar Farm is a very peculiar or unique in its approach. Yesterday I was talking to somebody and I said, we run a big farm, and he said, we run a mid-sized farm, but it's 5,000 cows. Well, we need to know the context first. India, where we have average herd size of 6 to 10 cows, having 400 cows on the farm is a big thing. We are anyway biggest farm in our state of Haryana, which is predominantly a agriculture state. By this presentation, we are not saying that everybody should do that, but this is one of the approach and some of the inferences, not even knowledge at this moment, but we are getting direction from them. I'm really thankful. Yesterday's Solution Center helped me a lot. Peter's, Hans Peter and Julian. We have possibly mix of, every farmer has their own way of working. And today's morning session that Shanta presented, Indian opportunity, possibly we are at the bottom of it, and we are trying to decipher things. So the purpose of our going to farming, we are all partners here in India are engineers, computer engineers, and we decided to go back to farming, and Earl decided to back us up at that then. So it was in a way it was blind leading blind, because Earl did not knew anything about India and we did not knew anything about farming. So and if we have brought it to this level today, where we are not looking back, I think we are considering it's quite a milestone for ourselves. We are vertically integrated, and the reason is completely because it's a socio-economic venture. We wanted to go back and contribute. Even Earl had initial sentiments about India. He wanted to help us. We have 240 people who are engaged, part-time or full-time. I think on a full-time basis, it is about 80, 90 people, because most of them also work in distribution. Well, today's topic is not this. It is about data and how we have led with it to this state. We started very humbly, initially when we started with a bamboo shed that you see on the left side and learning on the job. Today, after 10 years, AI is quite prevalent. People know how to inseminate in a cow. And back then, we are just 80 kilometers from Aeres Dairy Institute, but we could not able to find people who could inseminate our cows. So we had to do it ourselves. And we wanted to improve breed, so we did not put bull at that point in time and learn. So first year journey was, and some of these graphs you have seen earlier, but we want to emphasize that how our journey has been, so that other people can also opt. And I know many people have to take it. So please bear with me if you're seeing some of these slides, but they are with the more denser data points. So we started with 50 heifers, and 3 died in 4 weeks. And with our calculation, we were going to be there only for a year, because in 52 weeks, all of who died. So there was a bit anxiety at that point in time. Our mind worked, and we thought that if we can feed back something into system, possibly we can control it. And the very first equipment that we had on the farm was a weigh bridge. And we start weighing animals every 15 days after that, and have successfully contained the mortality on the farm. India at this moment, though it's a big opportunity, but it's very important to decipher a key to unlock it. And we see a lot of non-standard inputs. Even cows that we have bought could not perform, in relation to each other. We can always understand that 5 to 10% difference, but here we could able to see 20 to 80% variation from one cow to another cow. We were even sold free Martins in the market. 3 got reproductive issue, and this was a lot of investment, because we got to know about this after 40 weeks of almost 9-10 months down the line. And another issues is disease prevalency, and brucellosis is one of the margin eater at your farm, which has not gone from this side of the world. So in the very first year, we were like from 50 heifers to 40 cows. Our asset was down by 20%. And with this, but there was a hope, because we had this learning in our hand. With this weigh bridge and other data tracking mechanism, we could able to develop develop models based on this data, and we start collecting this data. In the first 5 years alone, we collected about 2 million data points around these 50 heifers and another lot of 80 that we bought. We soon after this, we started yielding inferences around milk production, insights around milk production. And we found some inferences, those actually were leading to profitability. And 2 of them I am sharing with you today. One of the key that we found was seasonality associated with it. I was hearing yesterday, Peter and his team in Germany, they carve year around, and the same complexity we have here. Because market is so close that we always want to produce at the same label, and hence there is a year-round carving. In fact, whether the feed and other thing supports that, because we have stock of brown feed. We don't really have to depend on. So people actually carve their animals year round. Here you see we also did that. But we had a very important KPI in front of us. We always wanted to remain under 400 days of intercalving. And when we plot this graph of calving year round, we found a very, very interesting pattern here. That the orange cows, if we carve our cows between May to November timeframe, they have a lesser intercalving period, whereas December to April timeframe calving cows has a greater intercalving period. And it's counterintuitive in a way that the milk production that comes in first 100 days always come in quantities from the later, which is December to April calving. And but the problem with these kind of calving is that they take long time to come back, and it has nothing to do with the cow, but the kind of feed, the environment, heat stress that Sue talked earlier. That get onset at the time of insemination, and that itself leads to about 3 to 4 months of gap in their intercalving, and that actually lead to a very, very interesting graph. And we have plotted this for about 900 days. What we see is that yes, the blue cows, those are calving in winter season, are yielding more. But if we see in entirety, orange cows, where we have calved them off season, actually yielded 17% more milk. And this was a very, very fresh finding for us, because in all region, Punjab or Haryana, everybody tends to calve their cows around winter season, because they get more milk if they are serving it to societies or cooperatives, knowing that first 100 days they yield more. And nobody remember that going past the time, they are not so profitable. So this was a very, very interesting finding in initial days. In 1920 time frame, we have moved from December on to earlier. Now we are calving between August and September. So the entire farm actually it maintain the volume, but also it calves. We have some heat stress there, and we have few early days when it becomes critical to monitor a cow that has calved. But the other good part, farming is all about trade-off. So we are playing one trade-off against another, and we are finding it is efficient enough for us and for the profitability. The another insight is about the cow weight. What we have found at our nutritional platter, we have found that a 500 kg cow at the time when she's converting from heifer to cow, at the time of first calving, if her weight remains less than 500, she actually get in calf back again quickly. And the group B is that group of cows where the weight was more than 570 kg at the time of first calving. Are you able to hear me? There was some internet issue here. Are you able to hear me?
Check. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sure. So this was another finding. The group A cows most of them were Jersey Holstein crosses, whereas group B cows were Holstein cows. I'm not against one another, but what we see in our environment, we saw nutritional platter that we were offering to the cow year round. We saw group A more profitable and provide us one extra cow in at first 780 days, and almost have same milk merit as the Holstein has collectively over time. Today, the spaghetti that was getting created, we are building inferences. We have similar studies around these blobs that you see: season, nutrition, milk solid. Around lameness, we have a very good study with the feed and its correlation with the lameness. Mastitis also. Growth rate, we are closely monitoring our calves and heifers, how they are growing for particular season, this season, when they when they get calved at one season, how they are performing, and what is their turnaround time in terms of getting into calf. In genetics, in terms of body weight and its relationship with all these blobs. So we are trying to create that knowledge base that may help Indian farming in a longer run. At this moment, we see that there's a lot of effort that is needed at the bottom, and we are ready to put that. For last 10 years, we have ramped our capacity. Obviously, there was a investment that went in, capital investment that went in first 5-7 years, but now we are closing to a place where we are planning, we are getting into a tax paid profit possibly this year. Half of our herd is followers, just because we want to keep them for study purposes. So and to help community in a longer run. So that is actually keeping us back at this moment. But this year we are happy to tell you that the farm alone will generate profitable tax paid profit. Apart from this, we are actively promoting our milk at the consumer side as well, because we know that to fund all these, you need that premium from customer, and customer are also liking the milk. So with that, I will stop my presentation. My 8 minutes are also over. So thank you, Alphonse. I'm okay to take questions in case.
Thank you very much, PANKAJ. I think it was very nice that you took us along in your journey. I think it was actually very good that you started with how you started and the steep learning curve you had in the beginning.
Yeah.
I always appreciate it very much if farmers are that open about the lessons they have learned and maybe about the mistakes they've made. And I think you can really be proud of yourself of what you have achieved in those 10 years. And I also like your statement about what you said about the cooperation with Earl. So Earl did not know anything about India, and we did not know anything about dairy. So that seems kind of an ideal combination. So that was great, and I think you're also very open and about the challenges that are still ahead. And I like also very much what you said about the information spaghetti, because I think it's not that difficult actually to collect data on a farm, but it's difficult to turn it into value, that you can use it and that it actually that you can make sort of hands-on decision and yeah, what does it mean for how you manage your cows and what you do with that. So I think you gave some very clear examples of how you approach this. I think it's a very professional approach. So you collect the data, you analyze the data, and then you make decisions, and then you adapt your management. So I think very impressive. So my first question to you would be if you look one step ahead. So what's the next? I think you already told a little bit about it, but what's the next thing you want to pick up and want to change in I mean mostly at the dairy farm on management practices.
So Alphonse, we have here we have contained farming. We still have to solve few challenges like bedding for our cows. We still have a issue with cows stomping the same space again and again and getting lame again and again. So lameness is not more than 3 or 4% in our case, but we still want to find a solution for that. we are already helping with these competencies. See, we are focusing on 3 basic parameters, and they may be long waved off from your system because they are already taken care. But breed, feed, and hygiene is something, and hygiene not only in terms of milk but also in terms of disease. We are possibly one of the control farm in India, brucellosis control farm in India. It's a big achievement, because for that we have to had a huge cost. We have to retire cows, and today we are proud that we are there. So hygiene plays a very, very big role, because it can cost you your bottom line. About 10 to 12% of your bottom line can be eaten by just disease and hygiene if you don't take care of that. On the feed, and we are still experimenting and trying to find the optimal feed level, and the cow body weight, if we can vary it. I know bigger cows will help getting us more production, but we also want to see that in the line of sustained reproduction coming from them, and how we can control that part of that body part. So we are carefully selecting semen, but we see a lot of possibilities where ecosystem has to get geared up to support farmers like us. The semen doses that we get here is tweaked to some parameters which we don't like as a farmer, and we are forced to apply some of them because there's no other option. So we want more options there. And ecosystem has to respond. I'm not denying that government is not supporting, but see, farmer has to find a solution first. Possibly government and other enablers can only help you scale. But the basic things first has to be sorted in the industry.
Yeah, I think that's a clear message, and I think in a lot of countries people take the ecosystem that is around the dairy farm for granted. So it's always good to hear that it's not in all places there, and you also depend on your ecosystem around your farm. So that can be very challenging. I can really imagine that. There was a very nice question from Thomas Allison in the chat, and his question is, if you could go back to 2012, so go back to when you started, what advice would you give yourself?
See, we have been very philanthropic in our approach at that point in time, and never knew that the capital that we have will run out shortly. So I believe we would have been very cautious about selecting our first batch of cows, because those actually built the bed for our farm, and we don't want to buy and exchange cows again and again, because then we lose on hygiene. Yeah. So that is one critical thing that we will revisit again. Had we known this earlier, this information earlier, we would have taken different decision. But then you can only run once against.
Sure. But it is an interesting question, and the final question I also borrow from Thomas for this session, and then we will wrap it up. Where do you think your farm will be in 2031? Because that's actually the main theme of this conference. So good farmers in 2020, and I think you're a good farmer, and great farmers in 2031. So where will you be?
So I believe we will have similar livestock, because the farm is confined farm, and we do not have much space to grow around. But we will have more productive cows. We will have more mature practices, and we will have a lot of calves to build other farmers and their farms to commercial scale. We are already helping 5 other farmers. We have helped them picking their milk, giving them premium, helping them encourage. So I think from 5 to 500, if we can move as a group, and that will really satisfy us.
Thank you. That's an optimistic view for the future. And like I said earlier today, I really hope that we as GDF can visit India and can also visit your farm. That would be a great experience. So thank you very much, PANKAJ, for your presentation and answering all the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alphonse. We're gonna close the second block.
It was a great block again, like yesterday. A few weeks ago, I had a congress with farmers from all over the world, crop farmers, vegetable, pigs, dairy. And we had three main topics at that congress: climate change, carbon, and technology. And it surprised me, yeah, yes or no, it surprised me that after two blocks, become the topics climate change, carbon and technology come back in this session as well. Yesterday and now again. After two blocks, we create a kind of a framework with questions, opportunities, and so on and so on. And the basis is we need more milk. We need more milk in the world, but we have also to manage climate change, carbon, and technology. Murray giving his poorest land back to nature. Now that are developments, they are going on in the Netherlands, they're going on in the Western world. Pallavi want to access to sex semen. It's technology. So, and the breakout rooms were all mainly about fine-tuning, all kinds of management tools. And something else is what's happening. The regions where the amount of milk will grow are, of course, the more challenging regions. What PANKAJ said about the threats in India, what Pallavi mentioned, and New Zealand and Western Europe, and actually that are the right countries to produce milk, but they have other problems. So we get the view of what's happening in the world become clearer and clearer. Tonight we have our third block. We have Nestlé as keynote speaker. And I don't think we get all the answers after the third block, but it makes the overview, what's happening in the world, more clearer for everybody who joined this event. I think it will be an assignment for GDF to follow up this all. If you talk about our next event, or about our vision of what's happening in the world, so it's quite a challenge for GDF as well. So I hope Nestlé will be a next step in the process we made. We start yesterday, and now we fulfill it a bit, and Nestlé will be the next part. So I hope you join the Congress, you join the event tonight. I'd like to thanks to our speakers. I'd like thanks to all our business partners for their contribution in the breakout rooms. Questions, comments, please contact us. And I wish everybody good night, good day, and so on and so on. See you tonight. Bye.
For years, Holm&Laue milk taxis see to healthy calves on farms. The new generation of Milk Taxi 3.0 offers a range of innovative options to make your work easier and more effective. For example, the mixing and feeding of milk replacer. The lid of our milk taxi can be fully opened for simple filling. Our powerful bottom mixer produces calf milk quickly and efficiently. The temperature gauge allows for optimal control of desired drinking temperatures. Here's what Annette Stuben says about that.
The milk taxi allows us to maintain an optimal drinking temperature over a long period of time. And the milk taxi is absolutely dependable, sturdy, and easy to use. So the milk taxi has been a big boon for us, a major success. It used to take much longer to feed the calves, nearly an hour for that task alone. And that in turn led to problems with the drinking temperature. So the milk taxi has helped enormously and saved so much time.
Here, the whole milk is taken directly from the milking machine and fed into the milk taxi. An easily readable volume scale makes precise measuring a cinch. A particularly gentle heating element warms the milk to the perfect temperature for the calf. With the electric drive support, transporting milk to the calves has never been easier, even on inclines. And new to the Milk Taxi 3.0, with the larger wheels, you can easily get over bumps. Plus, the 4 wheels make the Milk Taxi incredibly stable. With the dosing arm, it's a snap to feed a large herd of calves in a short period of time. And a battery-operated pump frees you from electrical outlets. With the push of a button, the optimal dosage of milk is parceled out. And since every calf has its own needs, amounts can be individually and easily adjusted. The calves, the trainee, and the foreman are pleased with the result.
We raise about 200 calves per year. We used to do all the work by hand, feeding each calf individually from a bucket. But with the milk taxi, the work gets done in a jiffy. The advantage for us is that the calves always receive the exact amount of milk, no matter who does the feeding, and that makes for healthy calves.
After each use, remaining liquids are disposed of, and the milk taxi is thoroughly cleaned. Fill it with water. And again, the push of a button is all it takes to start the semi-automatic washing procedure. The tank can be cleaned separately with a brush. Most big farms will prefer the 250-liter milk taxi. It can feed 100 calves per day, easily and economically. And it reduces working hours by up to 40%, which drastically affects rearing costs. Organic farmer Ernst Metzger-Peterson is convinced the milk taxi is an important innovation.
We recently moved our calves to outbuildings. They're a bit further away, so the milk taxi was really the only solution. Now we can feed the calves directly after milking, and that improves overall productivity. The milk taxi also allows us to regulate for individual feeding requirements, and that's an amazing plus. We can regulate the dosage very precisely, 3 litres, 3.5 litres, however we see fit.
The milk taxi comes with a wide variety of options in addition to those we've already highlighted. For instance, this long hose overcomes problems posed by small feeding alleys. An ergonomic handle with remote control provides maximum flexibility. Yet another option: farmers can fill the colostrums in the appropriate container directly in the milking parlor. The water bath maintains an even temperature for an extended time period. The milk churn frame is another exceptionally practical milk taxi option for transporting bee stings or water to the calves. Additional options are the energy-saving warm water heater and a milking parlor for cows, as well as the bright LED headlight, which will show you the path to your calves in the dark in your new Milk Taxi 3.0. Pasteurization of whole milk is becoming an important procedure at many dairy farms. The milk is gently warmed to 64 degrees Celsius and is pasteurized for 30 minutes. Or you can opt for gentle pasteurization at 60 degrees for 60 minutes. Finally, water is used to cool the milk to the desired drinking temperature. The heating procedure kills pathogen bacteria, protecting the calf's health.
If we do detect problems with some type of bacteria, we can always pasteurize. The milk taxi gives us that option.
Holm&Laue milk taxis. Refined technology, sturdy, and easy to use. It actually makes feeding fun. A versatile carriage on 4 wheels, and with electric power, it's more flexible than ever before. The milk taxi comes in a variety of sizes, with 80 liters for less than 25 calves, and now new with 150 liters, 260 liters, or as a trailer with a 250-liter tank. Milk taxis from Holm&Laue, for happy calves, satisfied farmers, and much, much more.
Our calves are happy and so are we. In fact, we are even more pleased because we have happy calves, and that's a lot of fun.
My name is Carl Vijverberg and I run a dairy farm with 200 cows in Middenmeer, the Netherlands. Today, with the help of my farm management system Lely Horizon, I'll show you what my typical workday looks like. First thing in the morning, I always check the app as it gives me an overview of tasks which need my attention. It tells me exactly what to focus on. Thanks to my personalized dashboard, I have an overview of all the key data, like the production numbers, KPIs, the health status, and the list of cows in heat. I make sure the freshly calved cows are being milked immediately, so I have milk for the calves. I also check if there are cows that are about to calve. Thanks to the Fetch Cow task, I know which cows to fetch during my work routine, and the Health task tells me which cows need extra attention. When needed, I'll guide them to the separation area. Thanks to the notifications in Horizon, I receive regular insights into what actions I have to perform with each specific cow. This will eventually lead to improved profits. Cows that need attention are automatically routed to the separation area. As there are built-in treatment plans per disease, I only need to review the given advice and act on it. An effective and preventive treatment ensures healthy cows. It's clear and it's working fast. I try to minimize cows' stress levels by combining treatments and performing it in the separation area. Thanks to this management system, you can make timely decisions and prevent problems. My herds manager has his own dashboard set up in Horizon, which is tailored to his work routine and tasks. The herdsman can perform an insemination task quickly and professionally thanks to the clear overview and connected data from my partners and suppliers. This reduces the probability of mistakes. We always respond immediately to an alarm to resolve the issue as quickly as possible for continuity. Because the cows are already separated thanks to the advanced filters in Horizon, the vet can quickly scan or treat the animals. This works well for both humans and animals, as it allows us to work efficiently and minimizes the stress levels of the cows. My aim is to have a purposeful meeting with my advisors by focusing on what needs the most attention. For that, I check a couple of the reports and refer to the feed advisor. I've given the feed advisor access to some of the data, so he knows what I'm talking about and he can review all the details. After the analysis, we immediately adjust the ration in Horizon. At the end of the workday, I check the KPIs one more time and review whether all the tasks are done. This ensures the last round in the stable is quickly done. It gives me total peace of mind, as I know I'm in control. Lely Horizon is user-friendly, and I have control over my farm at any location and any time of the day. This gives me more time to do other things. It gives me headspace to work efficiently and preventively. Lely Horizon. Future farming at your fingertips.
So the overall soaking system in the barn, we installed it ourselves first of all. We found it fairly simple. It's kind of a plug and chug. As long as you can measure it out, you could probably install it yourselves.
And try to get it as close to the cow's back as we could. With the wind power that's going through the barn, we can make sure that we get water on the top of the cows when need be. Then we put some control panels to control the cycle time.
You know, it's kind of the philosophy, if you stand up out of the water on a 90-degree day, you feel cool. If you stand in a 10-mile-an-hour wind on a 90-degree day, it just makes me tired. It's almost wears you out standing in wind all day. So part of that's back to the cow comfort.
So the soaking lines in Mike's barn are Artex soaking lines. They're designed with 1 gallon per minute tip, spaced 5 feet apart. The system is a galvanized pipe system with brass nozzles, so we can get it down very close to the cow level without concerns of the cows damaging it.
But also allowing optimal convection effect on the cows truly with cross ventilation, and be able to get the water on the cow themselves. We found that very useful.
What you don't want is a fine mist that's basically going to coat the hair and insulate the cow and can actually cause her to raise body temperature. We want large droplets, which this system provides, which gets down through the hair, gets down to her skin, and then that nice cooling breeze comes across, creates the evaporative cooling we're looking for, and releases heat out of her body.
So during the installation, really it was mounting the actual couplers on the main frame, as you can see behind us, and then sliding the pipe through. After that, actual method of connecting is the quick coupler. Very straightforward. Rubber gasket slides over, coupler seals it. Really has never leaked. Quite efficient, very well maintained.
Just getting that water on the cows for evaporative cooling is incredible.
The adjustability factor is key compared to a threaded pipe. You're able to adjust individual sections, whether it's laterally or vertically, to get optimal discharge of the water out of the cow. It'd be quite a nightmare with a threaded pipe, having to adjust the entire length of the pen. Compared to this, at each coupler you can adjust it to the right angle and then put the coupler back on, just making it once again more efficient. Everything's about efficiency.
We kind of watch the effectiveness of cow cooling by watching milk weights, watching cows, how they act, whether they're spread out in the barn. And in this barn, to be honest, I've never seen any bunching of cattle anywhere. So I think our cow cooling seems to be pretty effective. We monitor temperatures on cows once in a while on the hottest days just to see how cool they're staying. And they're staying spot on right now.
Yes, I would not change anything right now with after going through a summer and a half. I would not change anything with our cooling system.
Automatic feeders have been providing benefits in calf feeding for many years now. The calf decides for itself when it would like to feed and is fed the milk in lots of small portions, just like feeding from its mother. In the meantime, farmers' needs have changed. Alongside making work easier, other factors now play an important role. Modern feeding recommendations, such as the use of ad libitum feeding or the feeding of pasteurized whole milk, presents feeding technology with new challenges. At the same time, innovations have made animal monitoring via sensors and data evaluation possible even in large herds. All this has led us to rethink the calf expert and put the calf at the center of our considerations. Let's take a look at intensive feeding, for example. Lots of farmers are looking for solutions to wean their calves gently off high quantities of milk. Thanks to the animal weight scales, the calf expert can take the individual growth of the calves into consideration for optimum weaning. The flexibility of the feeding curves is the strength of the calf expert. Up to 8 feeding curves make it possible for each curve to be fine-tuned to the calf's needs. QuadroFlex allows us to feed up to 4 calves at the same time and respond immediately if a calf requires an individual feed mixture. This is possible because every portion is freshly mixed as soon as the calf enters the station. Calves do not like fluctuation in the composition of their feed. But when various milk replacers and whole milk come into the picture, things get interesting. The transition must be gradual so that the calf's digestive system can get used to it. This makes sense, for example, when 2 milk replacers are fed, whereby one is optimized for the young calves and the other for the weaning period. This also affects the use of whole milk. Many farms feed pasteurized whole milk because the use of milk that is not marketable is cheaper. Quite often, however, there's not sufficient whole milk available to feed all the calves.
The calf expert uses the milk diet data and whole milk available to calculate the optimum mixture of milk replacers and whole milk to ensure calves are always fed in the same way.
My name is
Christoph Hahn. I've been the herd manager at Matthias Zörn's farm for 5 years now. We currently milk 550 cows and rear the entire female offspring. Thanks to the installation of the calf expert, we are able to feed every calf in accordance with its age. Every calf gets an individual mixture and is also weaned individually. Up to now, we have been able to observe improvements in the animals' group behavior. The animals are much calmer. We can walk around the animals much more without them jumping up immediately. A technical aid such as the calf expert is only good when the user can use it safely. The illuminated smart keys make operation very intuitive. Calf information and feeding curves can be adapted in no time. It was important to us that the calves can be fed individually and hygienically too. It was also important to us that animals are not weaned according to age only, but depending on their weight as well. With the Calf Expert app, we are able to retrieve the calf's health data at any time and from anywhere. The Calf Expert provides a huge amount of data every day. We attached great importance to the fact that this information is easily accessible and can be accessed directly at the feeder, in the app or at the PC. Our expectations on the feeding technology have been completely fulfilled. Our calves have gone through the conversion very well so far. We can recognize our success on the basis of our calves' high daily gains. We also hope that this will lead to high initial capacities for the cows that are then milked. We have achieved all this together with our customers, an automatic feeder that meets the very latest requirements. The Calf Expert promotes the healthy development of the calves and improves profitability on the farm, resulting in satisfied calves and people.
Hi, I'm Peter Armstrong. This is Armstrong Manor Farm. We're located in Caledon, Ontario. I'm 5th generation on this farm. We're currently milking about 290 cows 3 times a day. Our average milk production, given the heat we have right now, it's running around 38 kilos a day. If we could get rid of some of this heat, I'd like to see it get back up over 40. Butterfat, we're running 4.1, 4.2 butterfat and 3.3 protein. So the cows are doing well despite this long stretch of heat that we've had. Our mixer that we have here is a 5850. And I was actually trying to think, I believe this is our 5th mixer. And that isn't to say that we always have to replace them. We like to keep current with a lot of our machinery, so before they get run out, we like to update them. The service that we get from Jaylor is tremendous. Just really pleased with them. The quality of feed that we get out of it, the consistency of feed that we get out of it. I'm going to say it's probably been about 12 years we've been running Jaylors, and anything else would be stepping backwards, I think.